Uber is going to pay up to $100 million to settle a U.S. class action lawsuit over whether its drivers are employees or independent contractors. That story kicks off the roundup. Nicole Verkindt is the founder and president of OMX. She's here to talk about this story and others. So, Nicole, this was a very important case because they were saying it could set the terms for all kinds of industries, the sharing economy, as they call it. And the argument was the suit was brought by a labor lawyer who has handled lots of different cases like this, who said, representing drivers, saying we're employees of Ubers. We should have, benefits and all the labor protection that normal workers do. And the case was settled. It was not decided. It did not go to a trial or go before a judge. They basically made this deal. Why do you think Uber wanted to pay $100 million to make it go away? Does that seem like a big price?
It does seem like a big price, and I thought it was a bit of a crazy suit because they're absolutely not employees. And this is an entire new economy that's emerging that we refer to as the gig economy, just like musicians would get one gig and they're on their own. And it's kind of like being an entrepreneur, but it truly is an independent contractor because you're completely accountable. And that's the reason why most Uber drivers love driving their Uber cars. And when I talk to them, they say, if I wake up and it's freezing rain and it's a 4-time surge, then I'm going to get out there and start driving. And when it's beautiful out, I don't feel like it, I don't drive. So I really don't think that they're actually full-time employees, and this is really going to set the tone for the entire gig economy. It's very, very important that we get this right. We do need some level of regulation in terms of making sure that things are safe and people are being protected, but we have to set this right and we have to set the tone right because we always talk about how consumers are consuming differently because of the internet and these apps, but most importantly is we all have opportunities to earn income differently through the sharing economy, through things like Airbnb, Etsy. So you could have one guy who's driving on Uber, selling something on Shopify, and using multiple platforms, and so they have to pay their taxes. They have to reach some level of regulations, but we have to be very careful here.
Yeah, well, and that's the point of trying to be careful between that line of enabling people to make money in new ways and exploiting them, right? And actually the lawyer in the case who was representing the drivers, she made this comment. This case, however, with its significant payment of money and attention that has been drawn to this issue, stands as a stern warning to companies who play fast and loose with classifying their workforce as independent contractors who do not receive the benefits of the wage laws and other employee protections. And I mean, it's a fair comment. I mean, there have been a lot of cases where people are being scheduled. There's certain things that determine if you are an employee.
It's only a fair comment, in my opinion, for companies that have people on full time and they're just paying them like contractors, but everything else is exactly like an employee. But in this case, in the case for the entire gig economy, they truly are contractors, and that's what's so attractive to the job.
So let's talk about this situation now in China. Anyone in China who was hoping to access something from Apple, or maybe a film or a book, they're out of luck. Those sites have gone dark. They call this the Great Firewall of China, right? That so many internet sites are blocked out. And now Apple's business is being significantly affected, and it relates. There's new regulations in China that affect online publishing. Apparently, the leadership there is not keen on getting foreign ideology into the society, which it thinks it could destabilize the country. They're also saying they're concerned about terrorism. What's your take on this situation?
Yeah, initially I've always thought any company that's in the content business, that is, search engine, that sort of thing, when they enter the Chinese market, they really do have to be worried. They have to partner with local Chinese companies. But some of these stories, when I read them, they really feel like non-tariff barriers. It feels like something different. It feels more like protectionism. So where is that line? I'm not sure, but I know it's a huge market, and these companies, when they enter that country, they have to play by those rules.
Yeah, well, the Chinese president was speaking at a cyber conference this week, and he said, a clean and healthy cyberspace is in the interests of the people, while a foul and unhealthy one serves no one. I don't know how exactly he's defining unhealthy there, but the U.S. has actually added internet censorship to its list of trade barriers with China. So something I think that we're going to hear more about in the months ahead. Now, one other story for you here, Nicole. The CRTC chair has been doing a number of things at these hearings that are going on about what is basic telecom service. And this time, here they're supposed to be talking about internet access and affordability. He took the opportunity to call out telecom companies for not having enough gender representation. And he talked about the fact that, since they started the hearing, they've been faced with panels entirely made up of men. They even analyzed of all the minutes that people had been speaking, such a small percentage was from women. Even if they do say women, they're not in speaking roles. So it's interesting. He did say, we know you're not alone. He could maybe look at himself, I suppose. 2 of the 8 commissioners of the CRTC are women. The rest are, of course, men. So what do you think? Is he right to be speaking out in this situation?
Of course. I mean, especially with the CRTC, that's essentially regulating content for viewers and Canadians. And the makeup should represent Canadians. And that's not just gender. Of course, it is gender, but it's also age. It's also different races. So I'm a huge proponent, obviously, of diversity and also all boards, but CRTC in particular, which is focused on the content that they're delivering.
In this case, they're talking more about internet access. What are the rules? What can people be entitled to, and so forth. But I'll tell you something that stuck out to me when I was reading about this today is that one of the CRTC commissioners, a woman, she's been there. She's made a comment early in the week where she said, I look out at these 10 men in suits, and it's a bit intimidating for me. And I thought, that doesn't seem like a very inspiring position to take as a woman who's, a former executive at SaskTel, leading a team of 800 people. She's going to sit in front of 10 men and be intimidated?
Well, look, we need an entire culture change here. Everyone always, I get asked so often what needs to happen to put more women into leadership positions and get women into traditionally male-dominated industries. And it truly is a complex answer. It represents an entire culture change. There's been extensive reports done on it, and it's really not a simple answer. But you're right, just that sense of feeling. Women are very good at having mentors. They're very bad at having sponsors. They tend to be less talkative. That was one of the data points they brought up in the article, was that the total number of words spoken was much less than the number of women on the panel.
Right.
So it's a complex
maybe,
situation.
Maybe he's doing the right thing, pointing it out at every opportunity. All right, thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, Anne.